Today's the big day. I finally got my Talking About Blue Rectangles license in the mail, along with a list of the blue rectangles I'm allowed to talk about. Let's see. I guess I'm gonna have to talk about the TI-108 calculator. Be right back. Here's a bit of math. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Works like a charm. This little guy oozes style. Texas Instruments is known for their many calculators, some quite advanced, even with color displays, but their most basic and perhaps most popular is the TI-108. And sure, maybe it's popular in the same way that homework and prison are popular, but just because American school children are forced to use it doesn't mean they'd make a different choice if they had one. You think I want to use this? This is blue! The classroom is the natural habitat of the TI-108. Its small form factor is great for small hands, measuring a measly 4.3 by 2.5 inches, or 11.7 by 6.4 centimeters. Its height is about 0.4 inches, which means its volume is around 1 egg. It features plastic keys, which are more durable and tamper-proof than the rubber keys found on many other calculators. This means the class hooligans will have to keep stabbing their erasers instead. Besides just the calculator, you might also remember its habitat, the signature Yellow Caddy. We'll get to that, but first, the story of the TI-108. The year is 1986. A nuclear power station explodes in Chernobyl, Ukraine. The first case of mad cow disease is identified in Britain. On the brighter side, the first Studio Ghibli film, Castle in the Sky, is released. Smoking is banned on all public U.S. transport, and the Oprah Winfrey Show makes its national debut. With all this going on, nobody knew that the future of elementary pocket calculators was about to change forever. In 1986, Texas Instruments introduces the TI-108. It was a slightly modified TI-17062, which was introduced a year earlier. They're nearly identical, except the TI-108 has the plus-minus key instead of the all-clear key on the 17062. We'll talk more about the keys on the TI-108 in a minute, but suffice to say, I like the change. The plus-minus key is a nice convenience, and pressing the on-clear key twice on the TI-108 accomplishes the same thing as the all-clear key. The other obvious upgrade is the color. The TI-17062 looks like it was carved out of sadness, and the TI-108 looks like candy. But there was one other big difference between the sad 17062 and the enchanting TI-108. Did you miss it? Look again. Why did they do that? Like, yeah, here are your 4 basic operations. Divides, times, minus, and equals? Why'd they put the equals there? They just slapped that in the middle of the operations and put addition on the bottom, and they made it huge. Why? For some reason, the successor of the 17062, the TI-1106, was introduced in 1987 and is just a TI-108 with the colors swapped around. Datamath.org describes this calculator as rare, and I couldn't find it for sale anywhere, so if you've got one of these, how much? But that wasn't all for TI-108 clones. In 1987, Texas Instruments also introduced the TI-1105, which just looks like a TI-108 from an alternate universe. It's purple! Color sure is important. I think both of these look like they're made for children, but the TI-1105 looks like it was carelessly designed because it's for children. The TI-108 looks like it's expertly designed so the children like it. But I do like the slanty model name on the TI-1105. That's cool. The TI-1105 also has the all clear key, just like the 17006 too. And the plus button again. What are they doing? Why do they make them like this, man? Why is the plus so big? Why isn't equals the big button? After Texas Instruments assaulted our senses with the plus-size pluses, the world was never the same. But once some of humanity figured its shit out and made the equals button the big one, it still wasn't satisfied. Let's take a look at the changes the TI-108 has gone through since its release 35 years ago. This information almost all comes from datamath.org, which I believe is compiling public information from just looking at a bunch of TI-108s. So there may be information missing on small changes made to TI-108s through the years. And thanks to George Warner for letting me use info and photos from Datamath. If you like calculators as much as I like the TI-108, you'll probably find a lot to love there. The TI-108 was introduced about 20 years after Texas Instruments made the prototype Caltech, which was the first pocket calculator. And unlike my TI-108 I've been showing you, you can see the solar cells in the first model are centered underneath the text on the calculator. These were manufactured by Calaquin Electronics in Malaysia. TI-108 fans against centered alignment wouldn't have to wait long. In 1988, the second generation of TI-108s was introduced. This is the biggest visual change we'll see with the TI-108, which just goes to show they really hit the ball out of the park their first try. Except, not really. These were manufactured by Inventec Corporation in Taiwan. The solar cells have been brought down and to the left. It looks like this allowed them to lower the text a little and make the display just a bit bigger, all the while reducing the size of the calculator. This model is actually 0.3 inches or 6 millimeters shorter than the first generation. And just when you thought you were gonna need a suitcase for your 108, Texas Instruments, you absolute studs. This is the only size change we're gonna see, so if the TI-108 is still too big for you, or if you're a TI-108 fan for centered alignment, my condolences. When I was younger, we got annual Call of Duty games. My parents got biannual TI-108s. In 1990, 4 years after the first model was introduced, and 2 years after the second, we get our third TI-108. Kind of. I don't know why this exists. This is just the second generation TI-108, but Calcomp is manufacturing it again, but now in Thailand, and it says Addison Wesley on the top. These TI-108s were made for the Addison Wesley Textbook Publishing Company. I just can't figure out why. Was the TI-108 included with an Addison Wesley book? Did Addison Wesley and Texas Instruments just agree to a temporary co-branding partnership for the TI-108 for some reason? Did Addison Wesley publish a book just for TI-108 enthusiasts? No, Stokes Publishing did that. The actual third generation of TI-108 comes again 2 years later, in 1992. They just made the solar cells smaller. They shrunk the solar cells, but what about the size of the calculator? And it was manufactured by Inventec Corporation again, this time in Malaysia, better known as the country where the first generation TI-108s with centered alignment were manufactured. You've heard your parents and grandparents talk about it. After the third generation came the great TI-108 drought of the 1990s. 1993, no new TI-108. 1994, no new TI-108. 1995, no new TI-108. 1996, 1997, 1998, and then in 1999, there were two types of people. Those who were scared of Y2K, and those who knew the fourth generation of TI-108's coming out next year.
What's the new model? What's the new model?
Yeah, the third generation Texas Instruments TI-108 was a great Texas instrument, but that Texas instrument just didn't have enough Texas. You know what they say, the Texas Instruments Texas logo is an instrumental part of every Texas instrument. Also instrumental to this model were the manufacturers, this time Nam-Tai Electronics Inc. in China. It was a short 4-year wait for the fifth generation, which came out in 2004.
Where's the Texas?
The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. The logo's gone. Oh, wait a minute. The logo's actually always been there. It's just been a dent in the bottom left of the other models.
Oh, they do all have the Texas logo. Phew.
I prefer the printed Texas logo, but that's okay. This model is actually the biggest upgrade the TI-108 has seen, unless you're one of those freaks who thought it was too big at first. These were manufactured again by Inventec Corporation, this time in Shanghai. Check this out. The TI-108 is solar powered, so its display fades quickly when we cover up its solar cells. But now check this out. Oh yeah, that 4 isn't going anywhere. The difference? The inclusion of a 3-volt CR1220 backup battery. No longer can low-light conditions even think of intruding on your time with the TI-108.
It's amazing the TI-108 was even getting such a significant revision almost 20 years after its initial release. In function and power, it was outclassed before it was even born.
The TI-108 was hardly more capable than the original 4-function portable calculators introduced in the early 1970s, and compared to some of the other portable calculators of the 70s, the TI-108 was even weaker. In 1972, before Texas Instruments' iconic TI-108 was even a twinkle in someone's eye, a new competitor would enter the pocket calculator war. Hewlett-Packard released the HP-35, the world's first portable scientific calculator.
The HP-35 was far more capable than the, at the time, unreleased TI-108, but they weren't satisfied. 2 years later, in 1974, Hewlett-Packard would release a truly stunning calculator.
Nicknamed Superstar and considered the first personal computer, the HP-65 outclassed the TI-108 in every way, more than a decade before its release. If we're generous, we might say the TI-108 has 7 functions: the 4 basic operations, the sign change, square root, and percent. The HP-65 had 51. And as if that wasn't enough, it was also programmable. A user could write their own program, up to 100 lines long, and store it on a magnetic card for the HP-65 to read. And it could even save the programs to any of 5 user-definable keys.
This is the Hewlett-Packard HP-65, the first fully programmable pocket-sized calculator. The 65 welcomes your experimentation. Try what makes the most sense to you. Most likely you'll be right. Pushing buttons will never hurt the HP-65. The worst thing that can happen from a mispunched key or a programming error is the 65 will blink its lights at you.
Got 2 messages for you. Moscow is go for Doc.
In 1975, the United States and Soviet Union performed an incredible joint space mission. The US Apollo module docked with the Soviet Union Soyuz capsule. Two nations, previously in a nuclear arms race, met in space. 24 minutes and 12 minutes before the meeting, the Americans made two crucial course corrections. Believe it or not, the calculations for these corrections weren't done with the TI-108, which wasn't even out yet. They were done with the HP-65.
But, of course, our beloved TI-108 wasn't made for space missions. It was made for the classroom. But even there, it seemed outmatched. If you look at Texas Instruments' own timeline of their calculator history, you won't see the 1986 release of the TI-108 mentioned. Instead, they include the TI-12 Math Explorer, released in 1987. Unlike the TI-108, the Math Explorer wasn't just designed for the classroom, it was designed in partnership with the teachers who would be in the classroom using it. By 1995, Texas Instruments had 6 different non-graphing calculators for basic classroom needs. These were the TI-108, the previously mentioned TI-12 Math Explorer, the TI-7 MathMate, the TI-32 Explorer Plus, the TI-30 XASE, and the TI-34. This table from datamath.org compares the features of the 6 calculators. Besides the MathMate, they all outclass the TI-108 significantly. So what became of this class of calculators? Did the more powerful models win out? Well, the MathMate would be replaced by the TI-10 in 2002. The TI-12 Math Explorer would be replaced by the TI-15 in 2000. The TI-32 Explorer Plus was replaced by the TI-34-2 in 1999, and the TI-30 XASE was discontinued in 2000. Only the TI-34 and TI-108 are still standing today. The TI-108 managed to survive to 2004 in the cutthroat calculator market, and that's when it got the backup battery. That increased the practicality of the TI-108 a lot, but it was still just the same basic calculator it had always been, the most basic that Texas Instruments even offered. Basic calculators wasn't the most attractive market for exciting new products. So while Texas Instruments gave us the backup battery, they were also preparing to release one of the few calculators that would go on to rival the TI-108's iconic status.
You've got mail.
The so-called digital revolution that began in the late 1900s was fully underway. In 1990, there were only 2.8 million internet users and 12.5 million cell phone subscribers. By 2000, the number of internet users had gone from 2.8 million to 631 million, and the number of cell phone subscribers from 12.5 million to 1.5 billion. In 1992, the first smartphone was created by IBM. The capabilities of our technology was quickly accelerating and leaving the TI-108 looking like a cheap, brightly colored novelty of the past in comparison. Texas Instruments certainly had their eyes on a different calculator. In 2004, they would introduce the famous TI-84 Plus. Unlike some of the TI-108's contemporaries from the 80s and 90s that would quickly be replaced by newer models or discontinued entirely, the TI-84 Plus wasn't going anywhere. Not only was it not being replaced, it was reproducing and going global. TI-84 Plus, TI-84 Plus Silver Edition, TI-84 Plus C Silver Edition, TI-84 Pocket FR for the French market, TI-84 Plus Pocket SE for the Asian market, TI-84 Plus T in the Netherlands, TI-84 Plus CE, TI-84 Plus CET, and even a special yellow edition of the TI-84 Plus bearing the words school property. Just like the TI-108, the TI-84 was going to thrive in the classroom. The TI-84 line of calculators would go on to be some of Texas Instruments' best sellers year after year, even topping lists of the best calculators to this day. As of May 18, 2021, on the list of best-selling graphing calculators on Amazon, the TI-84 family takes 5 of the top 10 spots. On the list of best-selling basic calculators, the TI-108 barely made the top 100. It was beaten out by abominations like the Sharp QS2130.
Ew!
The Canuo 8-digit basic.
Oh!
And the TI-15 Explorer, the successor of the discontinued TI-12. Almost 20 years with no major changes or upgrades except for the inclusion of a backup battery. Was it time for a major upgrade? Was it time to discontinue the TI-108 and replace it with a more powerful model?
Texas Instruments didn't think so. After 2004, we'd get our longest drought yet. 10 years later, in 2014, we got what is currently the final revision of the TI-108.
After 10 years, you might think they decided to give the TI-108 a significant upgrade. And you'd be right, they brought the printed logo back. Besides that, Texas Instruments didn't just think the TI-108's power was good enough. They thought it had a little too much. The 3-volt backup battery was changed to a 1.5-volt battery. The only other long overdue change with the 2014 model is the gray bezel is gone. It kind of just goes unnoticed until you see what life is like on the other side, but with the bezel gone, the numbers on the display are bigger, and this TI-108 looks better than ever.
Unfortunately, I don't have the newest model without the bezel, which is why my therapist stopped seeing me and told me to come back when I was serious. But let's take a closer look at 2 of the models I do have.
Here is the 3rd generation TI-108 with the logo imprinted in the bottom left. On the right, we have the 5th generation with the logo printed on top. Turning them over, we see the 3rd generation was manufactured in Malaysia, and the 5th was manufactured in China, which is where Shanghai is. Do you see what the back of the 3rd generation doesn't say? That's right, it doesn't say 1 3-volt CR1220 battery. What does the 5th generation say? 1 3-volt CR1220 battery. Let's crack these boys open to confirm. The TI-108 is pretty easily disassembled with a small Phillips screwdriver. There are 2 screws on the back side, then you just have to finagle with the case a bit to get its 2 halves apart. Try to find a weak spot where there's a little space and rip and tear. We see the backup battery in the 5th generation and no such thing in the 3rd generation. And the motherboards are completely different. The Calculator Review, another place you can go for calculator goodness, has a video review of the TI-108 where we see the inside of the final TI-108 revision, the model without the bezel. So that's the story of the TI-108 thus far, and as far as we know, it has been 7 years since the last generation came out, unless they snuck one by us. As long as Texas Instruments plans on keeping it alive, we'll probably see a new TI-108 model within the next 10 years. I, for one, can't wait. I'm hoping for the next model, they'll finally bring the signature TI 1105 slant. But how is it possible that this seemingly underpowered little calculator has survived for 35 years? To answer that, we ought to take a closer look at just what the TI 108 can do and how well it does it. The models have their differences, but they all look and function mostly the same. And that's the real magic of the TI 108, its iconic design and practical utility. The TI 108's flashy colors aren't just for attracting mates. The colors and positions of the keys are chosen specifically to help the user, often a young kid with no calculator experience. All of the keys we'll use to type numbers are white with blue print and placed together near the middle and bottom, where our thumbs can most easily reach. The 4 basic operations are red with white print, placed in a column with the big equals button at the bottom. The most basic operation, addition, is closest to the equals sign, but if you want to mess with division, you're going to have to travel all the way to the far end. But the TI 108 doesn't stop at just the 4 basic operations, it's got more. With the plus-minus sign change button, the TI 108 can instantly change positives to negatives.
My life is suffering and the TI 108 made me this way.
It changes negatives to positives too. It's kind of tricky how the minus sign for negative numbers shows up on the far left side of the display. If you're not used to it, you might get a bit mixed up, but I guess they preferred how that looked instead of using one of the wedge shapes in the 7-segment display. That's what this type of display is called, by the way, since the numbers are all created using 7 segments. At the very least, by not using one of the digit slots for the negative sign, we're able to have the full 8 digits for both positive and negative numbers, so I guess I'll be able to sleep at night.
The TI 108 can display 8 digits for both positive and negative numbers.
All the weird operations are nicely placed at the top, out of the way of the basics. On the top row, we've got that plus-minus button, a square root button, and a percent button. The square root button is pretty self-explanatory. Press that bad Larry and it immediately gives the square root of the number on the display. I wonder if restaurants are that quick when you order square root.
Hi, could I just get the square root of 8?
So that's nice, real easy to take the square root of 8.
But what if I want to take it back?
Okay, TI-30XS, you have a square button, but that doesn't make you better than everybody.
It kinda does.
So you took the square root of a number and now you regret it. Welcome to the party. Without having a dedicated square button, is there a way to square our square root and get the original number back? Oh yeah, the TI 108 has a trick up its sleeve for that. Hit times, then equals, and as if by magic, you'll square the number in the display. 3 times equals gives 3 squared, which is 9. So it kinda does have a square button. It's basically got a 6-pack and is just wearing baggy shirts all the time. Going back to the square root of 8, we press times, then equals, and get
7.9999998? That's not 8!
Bit of a bummer here. When we have these irrational square roots with infinite decimal expansions, the TI 108 has to round them. I know, you're telling me this blue rectangle can't store infinite amounts of information? I was shocked too. Once the number gets rounded, its square won't quite equal the number we took the square root of. It's fairly clear that's what's going on when we're able to see all the 0.9s in the answer, but if we take the square root of a bigger number, like 12,345,678, and then square that, we don't get the original number back, and we don't see the 0.9s to clue us into the rounding error. But if that amount of precision for numbers this big matters to you,
Why are you using a TI 108?
That covers about 83% of the keys on the TI-108. Next up, the percent key. This might be my favorite key on the calculator. It's just slick. Got a bill for $17.63 and want to tip 15%? Just type $17.63 times 15%. And you see you should tip $2.64. If you want to know the total plus the tip, type $17.63 plus 15%, a total of $20.27. The subtraction and division buttons also work with the percent sign in similar ways. The second row of weird operations is the hardest to understand, but once you do, it really helps this calculator become a bit more capable. These are the memory keys. Look there in the top left of the display. Notice anything?
No.
That's right, there's nothing. That's because currently the number in the TI-108's memory is 0. If we hit the MRC button, it recalls the number in memory. Pretty snappy, right? But what if we want to change the number in memory? That's where M- and M+ come in. Whatever number is on the display, if we press M+, that number is added to the number in memory. I said added, not assigned, but added. So if we press 5, then M+, 5 is added to the 0 in memory. So now 5 is in the memory, and there's a big M in the corner signifying that we have a non-zero number in the memory. We can press MRC now to recall that non-zero number, and if we press it a second time, we clear the memory and the M goes away. Remember, I said the M+ button adds to the number in memory. It doesn't just assign a new number. So if we add 5 to the memory again, then press 7, then M+, what number will be in the memory? We did have 5. Pressing M+ will add 7 to 5, so 12 will be the new number in the memory. M- works in the same way, but with subtraction. With the power of the memory keys, we can get around the TI-108 not having parentheses. Consider 6 times 0.99 plus 3 times 1.49. If we just type this from left to right, 6 times 0.99 will be added to 3, and then that will be multiplied by 1.49, which isn't what we want. Instead, do 6 times 0.99, then add it to memory. Then do 3 times 1.49 and add that to memory. Then recall the memory, and we get the correct sum of the products, 10.41.
But Sean, you may say, how did you come up with such a clever problem to demonstrate the utility of the memory functions? Good question.
If you go look at calculators in a store, you probably won't find the TI-108. You've got all these nice models in their own packaging, but no TI-108. Perhaps you'll have better luck than me, but I've never seen a TI-108 in a store. I don't even know if they're sold individually anymore. Grabbing one of these calculators really makes you wonder, how would they package a TI-108? What features would they list? And if you turn over these individually packaged calculators, you'll get a fun activity section on the back that helps you get used to how the calculator works.
Can you imagine the fun activities that would be on the back of a TI-108 package? I can only guess that due to the popularity of TI-108s in the classroom, Texas Instruments stopped packaging them for individual sale in stores where perhaps the TI-108 doesn't perform as well. But they wouldn't have known how things were going to go when it first launched, so I think the TI-108 must have been individually packaged for sale at some point.
The TI-108 was individually packaged for sale at some point. Thank God for eBay, or I'd still be having night terrors. Look at the difference. The 108 has a slide case. This one folds? Why? The copyright on the back says 1997, and this definitely looks like it's from a different time. No flashy proclamations of how many digits it can display. The only thing they do brag about on the package is something that isn't even a part of the calculator. Besides that, they have the cute chalkboard background and a quote as if it was a movie case. Hey, this is the calculator I use in school. But there's no attribution on this quote, so I'm really curious who said it.
They couldn't have just made it up, could they?
It kind of sounds like what the TI-108 might say if it called you and left a message.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hey, this is the calculator you use in school, TI-108. I was just calling to remind you I have a slide case. Alright, bye.
Yeah, they really don't tell you much on the front of this package. The calculator speaks for itself, but if you saw this, you'd never realize the TI-108 could square numbers so easily, until you turn it around and see that, and you'd be like,
It squares and has a slide case?
now we get some bragging. Easy to use, color-coded keyboard. That's true, but wasn't the TI-1105 color-coded too? I guess the difference is that the TI-108 was color-coded like this.
Yeah, I really think the number keys should all be white with blue print. Easy to read, looks nice.
And the TI-1105 was color-coded like this.
Yeah, turquoise and yellow sounds fine, fuck it.
The package also mentions the % key, the change sign key, that was a big innovation, built to last. TI calculators are the #1 brand used by students. Yeah, but doesn't that really just mean it's the #1 brand chosen for students by teachers? Doesn't really have much to do with the students, but again,
It's blue.
the other point you might have noticed is constants for repeated addition and subtraction. What does that mean? The TI-108 actually has a few more cool capabilities we didn't mention earlier. If we press 2 plus 3, we get 5. But then we can keep pressing equals to repeatedly add 3. 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, pretty slick. So it's actually storing the number 3 as a constant to keep adding. We can do the same thing with subtraction, multiplication, and division. And there's more. Remember how we can press a number, then times, then equals to square it? The other operations have similar functionality. Pressing 7 plus equals gives us 7, but if we keep pressing equals after that, we'll count up by 7s. Pressing 9 minus equals gives us -9, and we can keep pressing equals to count down by 9s. Division is really cool. If we press 8 divides equals, we get the reciprocal of 8. That's 1 divided by 8 in decimal form, of course. Oh, but we can't divide by 0, so what happens if we press 0 divides equals? Do we just get 0? Nope, a little E pops up in the corner. It's an error. The same thing happens if we try to produce a number too big for the calculator. Like if we keep multiplying by 2, the number eventually gets too big and we get the E. Pressing on clear will clear the error. Let's see, to turn the calculator on, expose it to adequate light. Okay. And press on clear.
And now, the big reveal.
Yeah, I got that problem from the back of the package.
Sue me.
These example problems have a dotted line around them and a pair of scissors up here, like, what, am I gonna cut it out and put it on my fridge?
Maybe.
I like this packaging, but if I had to redesign it, I might do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Yeah, I like that.
The world is a stressful place these days, with homelessness, hunger, human rights violations, and big plus buttons. The struggles of the TI-108 user often go unnoticed, but not by me. Here are 3 common problems TI-108 users face and 3 easy fixes.
Every TI-108 user knows this problem. How do you carry around your 20 TI-108 calculators? You may have tried a purse, but that's a tight fit. Maybe you tried a backpack, but is that really any way to treat your TI-108s? Thankfully, Texas Instruments heard our complaints and created a stylish and portable TI-108 habitat. Introducing the Texas Instruments Yellow Caddy.
Everybody knows TI-108s like to travel in packs, and the world is not short on options to cart these boys around. But it's the Texas Instruments Yellow Caddy that sticks in most people's minds. That bright yellow with the blue 108s poking out of it, oh man, just puts me in the mood to do some basic arithmetic.
Hey Sean, you wanna come over?
No, I'm playing with my TI-108s tonight.
My parents aren't home.
Yeah, no thanks.
The TI-108 experience in school wasn't just about using the calculator. One of the most memorable parts was the teacher handing them out from the Yellow Caddy. Or if you were lucky, you got to hand them out from the Yellow Caddy. Each one holds 10 TI-108s. They've got a convenient handle because they're meant to be carted around. This isn't just a storage device, it's transportation. They don't really need covers, but they have covers anyway, and the covers have little slits in them so you can tell if the caddy is loaded with 108s or not, and they have this little piece at either side so it's easy to take on and off. The bottoms of the containers are also designed great for stacking. These things are awesome. My one complaint would be that they can't hold more TI-108s. I mean, I went to a very small school, and most of my classes had more than 10 people in them. I guess that just means you need to get more caddies. I mean, look at me. I'm one guy and I have 2, but I still don't have enough room for all my TI-108s. And these things are versatile too. If for some reason you don't have enough TI-108s to fill them up, you can use them for pencils, toiletries, sausages. What's not to love?
I feel like it was just yesterday. I'd be sitting in class and the teacher would head to the little storage closet in the corner of the classroom and bring out the Yellow Caddy of TI-108s. I gotta call my mom. So, what do you think? Are you going Maddie for the caddies, or are you mellowed by the yellow? Fear not, if you'd rather be caught with a purse full of calculators for school children instead of yellow plastic, we also have white plastic. But we all know the problems TI-108 users are faced with don't end there. TI-108 users are known for going on a lot of dates, and sometimes your date will just want to sit back and project a movie on the wall, and you just want to use your TI-108. So, compromise. Get the Educator Basic, the overhead version of the TI-108. Project this on the wall and you'll have your date screaming, "Wow, that's a big equals button," in no time.
I didn't even know what an overhead calculator was, but it said TI-108, so I said take my money. The Educator was the name Stokes Publishing Company used for their entire line of overhead calculators. This one in particular is the Educator Basic. The Educator was a fitting name because the only people who would need overhead calculators would be teachers.
But what is an overhead calculator? Is mayonnaise an overhead calculator? Stay tuned. Let's crack into that box.
Unlike our familiar and beloved TI-108 that is made of plastic, overhead calculators are actually made of glass. This is why a protective carrying case is included, and the back of the box says to handle with care. And there is our protective case, which is cracked, because there's nobody there to protect him. I like how instead of saying Stokes Publishing Company or the Educator or anything else to stay consistent with the branding of the product, it just says Calculator Keeper. Makes me wonder if they have a calculator sleeper to help put your calculators to sleep.
Do they?
It's nice of them to include a case in this package, but man, they could have designed a better open and closing mechanism. You're just supposed to push this rectangle in and then lift up the lid. It seems easy now, but I'm pretty sure the case cracked the first time I did it. It's a little bit awkward. But once we open it up, we've got all sorts of goodies. Warranty, more notice to take caution. It's state-of-the-art technology that can't be handled carelessly, dropped, or pressed assertively. Okay, Sheesh, use fishing line to tether the calculator to the arm of the overhead projector? Jeez, guys, it's a calculator, not an atomic bomb. We get instructions that look like the calculator, that's cute, in English and Spanish, and finally the main attraction, the Educator Basic Overhead Calculator. The idea behind the overhead calculator, which is a trademark of Stokes Publishing Company for its transparent projectable calculator, is that it's made of glass and is transparent. This allows it to be projected on the wall using, as the box says, any standard school overhead projector. The overhead projector was a device used by teachers in ancient times to enlarge and project materials onto a wall. When I was in school, the overhead projector was occasionally used, only ever in my math classes. Often it was used for graphing problems because a transparent sheet of graph paper could be laid on the projector and displayed to the class, and the teacher could then make graphs easily and everybody could see it. Occasionally it would be used for other math problems too.
I remember always being ready to fall asleep when the overhead projector was being used, though maybe I'm misremembering. It's a cool piece of technology, but these days it's definitely a bit outdated and going the way of the TI-108 fans for centered alignment. Those sad people.
Just like the transparent graph sheets my teachers used, the overhead calculator could be placed on an overhead projector, and its image would be enlarged and displayed onto the wall. The teacher could then demonstrate exactly how to use the calculator to perform any function of interest. It's for this reason that you'd want an overhead calculator to look and function like the calculators your students actually had, and so the TI-108 was a shoo-in for what calculator the Educator Basic should imitate, because everybody was using the TI-108. If the Basic wasn't good enough for you, there was also the Basic 2, which emulated the TI-106. Look at that guy. There was the Advanced, which emulated the TI-34, and the Intermediate, which emulated the Math Explorer, the Math Master, which emulated the Math Master, which just looks like a lame version of the TI-108, and the Scientific, which emulated the TI-30, another legendary calculator. The TI-30 was introduced in 1976 and was significantly cheaper than other scientific calculators at the time. Scientific just meaning it can do everything the TI-108 can do, plus a bunch of other stuff, but it isn't blue, so who cares? A modern model in the TI-30 line of calculators is the TI-30XS Multiview, and this is one of my favorite calculators ever. As much as I like the TI-108, its buttons only feel okay. They're nicely placed, nicely colored, nicely textured, but pressing them leaves a little bit to be desired. Compared to the TI-30XS or the BA2 Plus, it just kind of feels like I'm massaging lettuce.
But as proud as Stokes Publishing Company was of this product, what with their patents and trademarks and begging you to handle it carefully, I gotta say, I think it stinks.
I don't have an overhead projector, so I can't see what this would look like in action, and I can't find footage of anybody using one, but the display is hardly visible and doesn't work. I press the keys and I can tell something is happening, but I can't tell what. All the reviews for these things that I've found suggest the same thing. It doesn't work. I even received mine brand new, but the calculator doesn't work and the case is annoying, so it stinks. Maybe I just didn't use enough caution. The limited warranty says it works in any size classroom. Alright, can't say that about every calculator.
I can't push these keys in here! It's too small! Now you'll never have to not project your TI-108 onto the wall to show off to your romantic and platonic interests again. Life is almost perfect. But with how often TI-108 users use their TI-108s, sometimes we run out of stuff to do. But if you're willing to pay the price, the world will make it right. All you've got to do is buy the essential TI-108 activity book.
Are you as surprised as me that this exists? What calculator gets its own activity book? The first time I purchased this book, I was sent this big stupid calculator instead. I complained and the seller told me they didn't actually have the book, but I could keep the big stupid calculator. It does have a nice big equals button, but Look at this thing. It just does the same things as the TI-108, but looks hideous and doesn't fit in the Yellow Caddy.
Nobody ever made an activity book for the Santa electronics calculator, that's for sure.
I love that they used the TI-108 font straight from the calculator for the TI-108 text on the cover. Like I hinted at earlier, this was published by Stokes Publishing, the same guys who made the atomic bomb, the overhead calculator. I almost always see books dedicated to spouses, but David Williams dedicated this one to his late brother. That's sweet. Well, I expected this book to basically be full of worksheets to do. The answers are all here, in a sort of hard-to-read light blue font.
After thinking about it, that makes sense. This is a book for the teacher, the TI-108 sensei. No third grader's gonna go, I'd like to become an expert at using that calculator from math class. I'm gonna go shopping and get a book to help me do just that.
Instead, the idea was the teacher would make copies of the pages in the book they wanted to use and distribute those copies to the students. I don't know exactly how they would have done it when this book came out in 1992, but I know now it would be easy enough to scan the pages and cover up all the answers in a PDF editor before printing. But I feel like there must be a more elegant solution, probably something to do with the features of your typical school copier machine. The one review I saw for this book said it had nothing to do with the TI-108. It was just basic middle school math problems. And to that I say,
how do you live with yourself?
This book is fantastic. First, it has 65 activities. That's a lot. Secondly, it really commits to being for teachers. Instead of just assuming you know how to use the TI-108, there's a detailed workshop to teach the teacher how to use the calculator in a way that might not work great for young students, but is definitely good for quickly bringing the teacher up to speed on the world's greatest calculator. We've got this section on topics and ideas, giving a sort of broad view of different ways you might engage students with the TI-108. Notice this little section on mental math.
When pocket calculators began to become more commonplace in the 1970s, those in charge of schools and educational standards had to begin considering the benefits and challenges of bringing calculators into the classroom, and the unavoidable access students would have to them outside of the classroom.
An obvious concern with calculators was that students could become over-reliant on them and unable to do arithmetic themselves. This small section on mental math pushes back against the idea that using calculators and valuing mental math are at odds with each other. They're not. A calculator gives us the power to perform otherwise tedious computations, but having a sense for numbers in our own heads is still tremendously practical. And to say this book has nothing to do with the 108 is just silly. The activities in this book make use specifically of all the features of the TI-108. Of course, there are a lot of calculators with features similar or identical to the TI-108, but come on, does the essential Casio SL310SV activity book really sound compelling?
No, it doesn't.
Here's a great activity, using your TI-108 to practice counting up money, which really you should just take as an idea and use real coins with students because that's way more fun. It has lots of classic do the math to solve the riddle worksheets, but yikes man, this is lame. What kind of ocean creature is sticky when you touch it? Jellyfish. What's the joke? Are jellyfish actually sticky? If so, this isn't a riddle or joke, it's just a fun fact. If it is a joke, the joke must be that jellyfish have jelly in their name and jelly is sticky. Is jelly sticky?
Yep.
Okay, well, now it's funny. I really like this activity, short strokes. It gives you the digits you're allowed to use, and you have to use the TI-108's functions to produce the target number, using only the provided digits, and as few keystrokes as possible. This would be a really fun activity in small groups, or to just have the whole class involved, giving their best ideas. For example,
The first problem is to use 3 to create 9. If you recognize 3 is the square root of 9, you can easily get 9 with 4 keys. 3 times 3 equals. But if you remember your TI 108 tricks, you can do it in just 3 keys. 3 times equals. And these get hard, man. I wasn't even able to get the target number in the 9th problem, let alone doing it in the fewest keystrokes. They even make use of calculator spelling, which is always a crowd pleaser. In this activity, you're told the word that your calculator will display if you turn it upside down, and you're given a blank to fill in, so the expression will produce that word. You have to understand what number the word is, and then figure out how to fill in the blanks to get that number, flirting with algebra a little bit, which is great. And since this book is for teachers, it mentions our friend the Educator Basics several times. I'm really impressed by how comprehensive and creative this activity book is. It even has an entire section at the end of lesson helpers. Every activity has one of these lesson helpers to explain the objective, how it should be used in the context of an actual lesson, and how it can be extended for more learning opportunities.
The fact that David Williams was able to write all about every single activity in this book goes to show the care that went into it. This book is truly worthy of the TI 108 branding. I salute you, David Williams. There you have it. 3 common problems TI 108 users face and how to solve them. And remember, a big plus is a big minus, but a big equals is a big plus. So what gives? How is this basic calculator from the 80s still kicking? Simple. It's the greatest calculator of all time.
Remember, calculators like the HP 65 were significantly more powerful than the TI 108 more than a decade before the 108's release. But it seems like that didn't matter at all. Because it didn't. The TI 108 was never in the market of being the most powerful. It was never cutting edge. It's in the market of being the best at what it set out to do, to be a durable, low-cost calculator that was easy to use. The HP 65 was astonishing technology, so good it was used by astronauts, but what I didn't tell you was the price. The TI 108 cost $4 to $7 and still does today. The HP 65 cost $750, which would be about $4,000 today. Despite inflation, the TI 108 has maintained its extremely low price.
But Texas Instruments isn't always in pursuit of affordable calculators. As of September 2019, they had an estimated 80% market share of the graphing calculator market internationally. Particularly in the United States, their dominance in schools has allowed some of their prices to remain startlingly high and out of reach for some students. Given how TI calculators are often one of only a few that are allowed on many important academic and professional exams, this barrier to entry definitely raises some concern.
That best-selling calculator, the TI-84 Plus, at least one analyst has estimated its production cost to be only $15 to $20, but the price of the TI-84 Plus has hardly changed, despite being out for almost 20 years and the prices of its components dramatically decreasing. It released at a price of around $100, and that's still the price today. That's a profit margin of up to 85%. For perspective, the average profit margin for companies in the electronics sector as of January 2021 was only 3.49%. In 1986, the year of our TI-108, when the state of Connecticut placed an order for 10,000 TI calculators, Texas Instruments knew there was serious potential in further pursuing the education market, and pursue they did. They've strategically increased the value of their products through aggressive lobbying that has made it standard, expected, and at times even mandatory for their calculators to be used. They partnered with textbook companies so books would have pictures showing how a problem is solved specifically with TI calculators. They've campaigned against the more powerful devices that threaten their stranglehold on the market, devices with touchscreens, keyboards, and internet connections. They even lobbied Texas legislature to make Algebra 2, which very often requires the use of a TI calculator, a mandatory course. With how standardized their devices have become in education, moving away from Texas Instruments could be a major hassle for many schools and teachers. They're used to TI devices, and so the TI-84 Plus probably isn't going to get a major price cut anytime soon.
This is not all to paint Texas Instruments in a bad light. Just like any other company, they're doing everything they can to make sure their products are successful. But there is a level of sinister domination with an expensive calculator like the TI-84 Plus that you just don't get with the TI-108, despite its similar level of prevalence.
It's impossible to dominate the basic calculator market in the same way as the graphing calculator market. Textbooks are unlikely to have any need to give detailed walkthroughs of how you would use a 4-function calculator, and even if they did, they're all quite simple and similar, so solutions using one basic calculator could quite easily be carried out on any other basic calculator. Similarly, exams that allow basic calculators aren't as picky about them as they are about graphing calculators, since all basic calculators pretty much do the same basic things. On top of that, it's uncommon for only basic calculators to be allowed on an exam. So if you're taking an exam with calculator requirements, you'd probably jump for one of the permitted scientific calculators, like the TI-30XS Multiview. Thus, to remain desirable, the TI-108 has to be cheap. And maybe you think, in this more competitive basic calculator market, the TI-108 is failing. I mean, it just barely made it on Amazon's 100 best-selling basic calculators. But don't write it off so fast. The TI-108 is most common in the classroom, specifically earlier grades where the schools are supplying the calculators. There's a good chance that many schools and teachers buying educational materials aren't using Amazon, but instead are buying from distributors of educational materials specifically, like Lakeshore, Schoolmart, and EAI Education. Additionally, the TI-108 is incredibly durable. These things are made to last. Thus, a lot of schools probably bought 100 of these things 20 years ago and haven't needed to buy them again since. The TI-84 Plus usually has to be purchased by individual students for their classes that require it. Since they're so expensive, it's much harder for schools to provide these. So while every school could buy 100 108s and never have to buy one again, more students have to get their class-mandated TI-84 Pluses year after year.
With those points in mind, it's almost a little surprising the TI-108 is in Amazon's top 100 at all. How often do schools need to buy more 108s through Amazon? Any school that wanted some probably has them by now. But that's not all.
It wasn't just the TI-108 that was in the top 100 best-selling basic calculators. It was a teacher's kit, a set of 10. That means however many sales of this teacher's kit got it into the top 100, the actual number of TI-108s sold is 10 times as much. And if you combine that with the sale of the individual TI-108s that are also offered, there's no question they'd be much higher on this list, despite how widespread they already are, and despite the fact that students aren't forced to buy them for classes and exams. I rest my case. The TI-108 is still killing it. This guy has been doing mad numbers since 1986, and it's not stopping anytime soon. But it's got more than just sales. It's got a place in our hearts. This is the calculator from our childhoods. Your TI-84 Plus from high school is probably gathering dust in your closet or at the bottom of an old backpack. The TI-108 you used growing up? It's chilling in a Yellow Caddy, in a supply closet, ready to go for math class tomorrow, when another student will use it and fall in love with its unwavering charm. The TI-108 activity book said it itself. The most popular basic calculator used in classrooms today, used by thousands of teachers at every level of instruction. And the book is old, but this isn't outdated. For example, here's a description of a spring 2021 university course on mathematics education. It mentions only one calculator by name, the TI-108. Calaquin from the Calculator Review calls it one of the best calculators ever created, going on to say, find the nearest kid and take their backpack and dig through it until you find one. You most likely won't find a scratch on it, and it's definitely going to work. The TI-108 is simply perfection. Paul Ford writes about the TI-108 in his article on the joy of perfectly designed objects. He says, it feels wonderful in your hand, light and plastic, but still substantive enough. It is in no way fragile. It does exactly the arithmetic it promises to do and never requires batteries. It works under even the faintest lamplight. It just calls out to be touched and used. He also goes on to insult the TI-1105, smart man.
And it's not just David Williams, Calaquin, and Paul Ford that love the TI-108. All sorts of people love the TI-108. Just see for yourself.
Hey, I'm Laura from Math Sucks, and I remember using the TI-108 back in elementary school. I remember we were all given a TI-108 to use on our math tests. And as weird as it sounds, I always used to love a math test because they were just so quiet and chill, which is always so rare to find when you're in elementary school. And the TI-108 was a part of that. I knew I could always count on it because it didn't require any batteries, and it really made math suck just a little bit less.
Hello, my name is Jay Cummings. I'm the author of 2 long-form mathematics textbooks on proofs and real analysis. But my math journey, for the most part, started right here at this school. This is Prescott Elementary School in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I remember at this school we did use a TI-108 calculator. I confess that my only vivid memory of this calculator is typing 80085 into it and passing it sideways to my friend Johnny so we could giggle at it together in the back of math class. Still, that proves that we were indeed using this calculator right here in elementary school. And certainly right down the street from here at my middle and high schools, we made very good use of TI's graphing calculators for algebra, geometry, and calculus classes. But it all started right here, and it all started with the TI-108.
Hello, I am What the Heck Tagon. And I'd like to give you a little PSA, a short public service announcement about the fantastic TI-108 calculator. It's tiny, pocket-sized, and it behaves wonderfully, as you can see by the clearly changing solar-paneled display here. It's really thin. It's actually incredibly light. It's completely foldable. Turns out you can only fold it 7 times, but yeah, it's truly an astounding piece of technology, and believe it or not, very nutritious.
Okay, so now let's check this last step. Well, I know that pi over 8 plus pi over 8, well, let's just make sure that that is 2 pi over 8. Well, we can factor a pi over 8 out of this, and we'll see that we will be left with 1 plus 1, and then we have this minus half here. So now I'm going to use my favorite calculator, the TI-108, just to check what 1 plus 1 is. Okay, that's 2, so that gives me 2 pi over 8 minus 1/2. But I think I can simplify that a little bit. If I remember correctly, 8 is equal to 4 times 2. So I can replace this 8 with a 4 times 2. And again, I'm going to check that with my favorite calculator, the TI-108. 4 times 2 equals, yep, it's equal to 8. So now I can cancel this 2 with this 2, leaving me with pi over 4 minus 1/2. Okay, but now looking into this, I actually remember that there's a trick that you can do with this calculator so that you can actually evaluate the integral from the very beginning. So this is a super secret trick, but I want to show you guys how to do it right now.
TI-108 calculator saved my life. I was out climbing in a national park when a boulder fell and trapped my arm. I was stuck there for 127 hours with nothing but the TI-108 to keep me entertained. Fortunately, its incredible solar power meant that I could continue to type 5,525,865 divided by 69 to my heart's content. Now, I never leave home without my trusted TI-08, a true hero amongst calculators.
Hey John, it's Andrew. Do you still have that TI-108 that I lent you a couple months ago? Awesome! Can I get that back for a video, actually? What do you mean you need it? What could you possibly still need that thing for?
Hi, I'm John of Epic Math Time. I was asked to come in today and say a few words about the Texas Instruments 108. Now, you may see all this fancy technology here behind me in the abstract realm and think, what use could this guy possibly have for a TI-108? Well, let me just show you.
Huh? Me? Oh, come on, you know I love the TI-108. Look, I guarantee I love the TI-108 more than anybody.
Now you have my guarantee. There's no love like my TI-108 and me. We're so close, I suppose it's how it's meant to be. I love its 8-digit display, the way it says hello to me every day. And even when I'm down and blue, the TI-108 always is too. I wish I had your strength as well. Booked an appointment to implant some solar cells. And I never tire of looking at you. Gonna get myself a Texas logo TI tattoo. I think that I could be more happy if only I lived inside of a yellow caddy. I wonder how the world will look without me. Will they write activity books about me? They probably won't notice since I'm such a shut-in. Please give the 7th generation a pi button. Let it do something the current model can't, or just grab a protractor and give it a slant. Now you have my guess. guarantee there's no love like my TI-108 and me.
How long have I been talking about this stupid rectangle? Holy shit. Maybe I need to get back into, like, dating. They have apps for that, don't they? Yeah. Alright, let's see. Gotta pick a good profile picture. Oh yeah, that's perfect.